Imagine that you are a resident of a quiet neighborhood. You generally keep to yourself as you work, go about your day, and rear your children. You occasionally attend events, have an outing with your close friends, and most of all, you try and manage your time in this existence we call life. Not too alarming, right? Well, your cycle of normality is about to be shaken because word has spread that one of the neighbor's children had passed away in a car accident. Of course, this news comes as a massive shock to you and other fellow neighbors. Weeks go by, perhaps months, and the awkward silence stretches along. Now, keep in mind you are not entirely familiar with the neighbor who lost their child. In the event of such a death, however, you, as a parent, ponder the fragility of life, especially your child's life. Continue to imagine, if you will. You begin to put yourself through the possibility of losing any of your children. The very notion frightens you, devastates you even. And though you know your children are presumably safe in your home, the chances of being here today and gone tomorrow are sobering thoughts indeed. Now that you've placed yourself in someone else's situation, you begin to feel a form of understanding. You can't possibly feel the myriad of emotions your neighbor is experiencing, but from parent to parent, you would acknowledge that no amount of pain can compare to the loss of a child. You now find yourself offering support to your neighbor, and sometimes nothing needs to be said, as being there can provide some measure of comfort during a time that seems so bleak. The empathy you develop for your neighbor is a small but significant piece among the support network of human altruism. Empathy has been a defining characteristic of the human condition, and it can be observed through acts of altruism. True altruism has been a topic of continuous debate because those who put it in practice generally expect something in return. This is known as reciprocal altruism. To say that humans only help on the basis of reward is, however, demoralizing and, ironically enough, dehumanizing. Selfless altruism can be possible, depending on the context of the event and its association with human suffering and death. Now, genuine acts of altruism can exist in a situational context. Developed by social psychologist Charles Daniel Batson, the empathy altruism theory states that genuine acts of altruism are possible if someone feels empathy for another person. An individual takes another's misfortune at face value. Therefore, the combination of perception of need and adopting an imagined other perspective increases empathetic concern. And what does that mean exactly? To put it simply, if one were to imagine themselves in the same position as the sufferer, they would feel the desire to help the recipient out of true concern for their well-being. In a study conducted in the Medical Academy of Lithuania University of Health Sciences, 233 medical students were scored on their empathy and emotional scales. Researchers found that those who scored higher on the emotional and empathy scale were able to connect with others, and thus the quality of health care for patients was higher. These high empathy levels stemmed from an imagined other perspective, and by employing fantasy, they experienced greater anxiety about the death of self, the death of others, and the dying of others. The empathy altruism theory plays a major part in these students' future as medical professionals. They were able to internalize their fear of death and imagine themselves in a situation where they would need medical care and comfort. Empathizing with their patients incorporated a vital aspect of human kindness within an environment where the end of one's life is and will always be imminent. The human experience is fueled by a society that comes together in a time of crisis. According to Emma Sapele, Science Director of the Center for Compassion, Altruism, Research and Education at Stanford University, bouts of acute stress, also known as short-term stress, can summon human kindness and empathy. Acute stress, connects to major events in the forms of natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, famine, and even disease. In what appears to be a massive act of selfless altruism, more than 800 retired Army medical professionals heeded the call to help in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic in New York. Former physician and Colonel Melissa Givens of the United States Army, who also came out of retirement to help with the pandemic, stated that she was overwhelmed at the response of these veterans and their willingness to leave their homes and their families and put themselves at risk. Now, duty may be the driving force, but many of these retired medical professionals were given the choice to join or to continue on with their retirement. As it is, they are reaching a particular age demographic that is highly susceptible to COVID-19. The fact that they are actively choosing to assist the afflicted and provide comfort as much as they can implies their forever ingrained title as the unsung heroes of this brave new world.